Okay, let's now take a look at do-while statements. This was useful when we knew how many. Do-while will just say keep repeating until something happens, till something becomes true. We have two versions of this. We have do while whatever condition is true. It will then execute the instructions. We can exit do if a certain situation arises and do more instructions, and then loop back up and keep going through it as long as our condition is true. Notice this is different from the do and then loop while. So this way it'll always go through it at least once before it checks the condition. If that condition is true, then it will keep going through it. This may never go through that loop. This will always go through at least once. Let's take a look at a function written with a do loop. We have it over here. Let's go take a look at the actual VBA code. See, I'll scroll it up a little bit. So here we're passing it a column, and then we're saying create a variable called maximum value and also one called row. We're going to set maximum value to, there's application.max column for that, row equals 0. And then we're going to keep adding 1 to row as long as the cell is not equal to the maximum value. Once it finds the maximum value, it will then exit the loop and we'll say row of the largest equals whatever row that was on. Let's go take a look at that again. So looking at this, we have the row of the largest, and we're going to pass it an L, row L. It's going to look down through all the active cells here, and it's found what the largest value is, the maximum value, using this application max function of that column. It knows that it's 125, and then it iterates down through the rows until it finds a 125. It says, oh, well, that's on row 23, and it quits and returns that value. So the keys here were we found out what the maximum value was. Once we knew that maximum value, we set the row to 0, and then we kept looping until the cell, the row, and column was equal to maximum value. As long as it wasn't equal to maximum value, it kept looping over and over again. When we were done, it knows which row it was on, and it'll say row of the largest. Sometimes it's worthwhile to spend a few minutes just playing with each of these functions to make sure you understand what's going on. Remember, you can always put a stop in the left-hand margin and then use your F8 key to follow it through and kind of look at the values as it does that. A do until loop is very similar to the do while loop. The main difference is that a do while loop will keep on executing over and over again as long as the condition is true. A do until loop executes until the condition is true. In the previous example, we said it wasn't equal to that maximum value, and it kept going as long as that was true, that it wasn't equal to the maximum value. Here, on a do until, it's going to keep executing over and over and over until that condition is true. Now again, just like the do while loops, I can put the condition with the do or with the loop. Here it's with the loop on this example. And in the example here, very similar to the previous one, we set the maximum value equal to whatever's the greatest value, in this case column C, and set the row equal to 0. Then we keep iterating through until this condition is met, that the row and the column is equal to that maximum value. It just keeps adding 1 to row and row until it gets to that. Once it finds that maximum value, then it sets row of largest equal to R. So that down here, if we put this up here and hit enter, now with C, it comes down, it knows that 126 is the maximum value. It keeps going through each row all the way down until here in row 26 it found that value, 126. It says, oh, well, that's in row 26, and returns that value here as row of the largest.